Everyone dreams of moving to Italy. The romance, the food, the beauty, the slow magical mornings, and yes, there's so much to love. But today I want to talk about the other side, the part that doesn't show up in the highlight reels, the part no one warns you about, especially when you're coming from a culture like the US. This is my personal experience. And while it's not everyone's story, it's a side of Italy I think more people deserve to hear, especially if you're thinking about moving here or building a life from scratch. When I first came to Italy, I was of course enchanted. The food, the rhythm of life, the richness of the land, it felt like a dream. And for a while it honestly was. But once you move past the magic and you start building something real, a business, a home, a foundation, that's when things started to shift a little bit and the cracks started to show. And if you're not prepared, it can really feel overwhelming. In America, we're raised to believe that if you work hard, stay organized, and surround yourself with the right people, pretty much anything is possible. But that mindset doesn't work here. In Italy, things move at a different pace, a different structure, a different energy, and you can't just show up with a vision board and a plan. You'll get chewed up and spit out unless you know how to navigate the system, and even then, it's still hard. Building a business here is one of the hardest things I've ever done. You need a full-time team, a lawyer, a commercialista, a translator, a geometra, an accountant, a real estate expert, and still you feel like you're missing something. There's no single person who oversees all, and everyone does one small part, and when something goes wrong, it's on you to figure it out. The bureaucracy is honestly relentless, and the paperwork is endless, and honestly, the rules change constantly. The next thing I really want to touch on that, of course, really hits home for me is really being careful about being taken advantage of. In the beginning, especially around real estate, I was really taking advantage of, with prices inflated and details left out, promises broken. Being a foreigner, especially an American, can make you a target. Now I know better, I've learned, but it definitely came with a huge cost. The tax system here is something else entirely. Even shipping used personal items from the States can trigger a surprise fee. Every time I send myself a box of clothes or personal care items, all things I already owned, and I constantly am hit with import taxes that make zero sense and you can't fight with them. It feels like a system is set up to make things harder and not easier. You pay to bring your life here again and again. So be prepared for a lot of extra expenses that you never would have considered when it comes to taxes and the bureaucracy of this country. Everything takes longer in Italy. Getting a plumber, probably 3 weeks. Getting a government response, a minimum of 4 months. You follow up, and then you follow up again, and then you follow up again, and you'll basically just be chasing people to get them to do basic things that they promised to do. And often you'll be met with a shrug and a phrase, "Hey, Italia," and that's just the way it is. So be prepared to chase people when you want to get things done. Learn patience, because without patience, you're going to be miserable, because that's just the way it is here. This part actually makes me a little bit sad because I feel like it's a culture that's conditioned to give up. I used to wonder why no one pushed back against the system, but then I realized most people have been dealing with this their whole lives. They're tired, they've stopped fighting, and many Italians work until July just to pay taxes. Half their year gone to the government. And it's not like you see the benefits. The roads are broken, the public services are a mess, and it feels like it's the biggest black hole ever. I thought the US was bad, but Italy takes the cake when it comes to not seeing where your tax money goes. They're very, very behind in health and wellness and spirituality. It's something that I actually really miss, because coming from LA, I miss the wellness world, the gut health, the functional medicine, the nervous system work, the spiritual tools. In Italy, those things are not the norm. You can't just walk into a market and find adaptogens or gluten-free everything. But of course, the food here is real food, which honestly makes up for it. The ingredients are seasonal, local, and nutrient dense. It's not labeled organic, it just is a good amount of the time. So while I miss some of the biohacking culture, I also find deep nourishment in the simplicity too. Another thing I didn't expect was how hard it can be to truly connect with locals, especially Italians who have never really lived anywhere else. There's a culture closeness and a protectiveness, and as a foreigner, even when you speak the language and respect the culture, it can feel like the doors stay closed, especially with, at least personally for me, with other women. There's an unspoken feeling of like, we have our circle and we don't really need to expand it. It's not something that made me feel lonely because I've been deeply fulfilled in my own energy, but it was a pattern I had to observe, respect, and learn how to work around. Of course, I found my people here eventually, and there are people like this everywhere, but generally speaking, this was my experience. Italy is hard, but I still choose it. I choose it with my eyes wide open because I don't believe in chasing the perfect place. I don't think it exists. Every country, every lifestyle, every dream comes with its trade-offs. The key is to find the place where the compromises feel worth it. And for me, for now, that place is Italy. Even with the taxes, the paperwork, the delays, the closed circles, I still feel deeply called to build my life here. And maybe that's what building a real life is about. It's not just choosing beauty, but choosing what you're willing to fight for. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you more insight into any questions that you have had if you choose to move to Italy. Any calling is a true calling, and of course, make sure you do your diligence before you move somewhere, but no matter what, just go for it, because even if you learn, like my experience was very hard. I had a very hard 3 years moving to a country on my own, but honestly, it humbled me beyond what I could ever be humbled, and I'm grateful for that. Everything was meant to put me where I am today, and so take everything with a grain of salt and follow your path. I will see you on the next video.